Before we get into the fun stuff, I want to state that this is better suited for somebody who's got basic knowledge with smartwatches as a whole, as I'm not going into great detail here. This is a comparison between the Garmin Epix Pro Gen 2 51mm and an Apple Watch Ultra 2, and how they're different in different circumstances, situations, scenarios, whatever you want to call it. So let's get into it. These pictures aren't my own, but these are of the watches in the light. You could see them. It's good. I was too lazy to take my own pictures. I figured I'd take somebody else's pictures. This is the Epix 47 and 51 Pro Gen 2 on the lowest brightness setting in the sun. So we could see that it's quite legible, if that's the word. There's another picture there. And this is the always on display, which is not that great in the light. Okay? So now let's get into this really quick here. This is the unboxed. Looks like a Gaboon Viper or Pac-Man. So you open that up. It's not like the 5X, the 6X, the 3 that I have where you open it from the top and the box feels more rigid. No, this definitely feels cheap. And for $1,752 Canadian, I would expect a little bit more than a little flimsy shit box. And that's somebody's finger under that paper from the last person that tried to take my watch. Back off, get your own watch. Remember from that thing, back off, get your own sandwich? Yeah, if you're under 30 or 40, you probably won't get that reference. And of course, it comes with the charging cable. Don't know how long it is, maybe a foot. But it's proprietary as always, but it's USB-C this time. Make sure you don't look at me, the ball pumpkin head. Focus on the cable here, even though the camera won't focus on it. And of course, the watch. I mean, I got the white one here. I got the same watch face as on my 6X so that we can compare the brightness difference. Helps if I keep them side by side. I'm having a hard time lining them up because what's going on is my camera's reversed. So if I move my hand to the right, it actually moves to the left. Anyways, so that's the difference side by side quickly. Of course, this one is still on because it's a memory in pixel, right? So we can still read that. Again, it's quite legible. Whereas this one, you don't see nothing unless you have the always on display, which I don't like because it's not that great anyways. Okay. We're also going to talk about some of the differences between these watches and the Apple Watch. Actually, as a matter of fact, let's do this quickly. So I touched that one. They look like they're about the same brightness. They have different watch faces for obvious reasons. I couldn't match that. And that's because this watch goes up to 3,000 nits of brightness. This is the Ultra 2. The Ultra 1 did up to 2,000. This is 1,000. This, in direct sunlight, as I've mentioned, is great. The always-on display leaves more to be desired because, as we saw from that picture, it's just not that great. Okay? So, which is why I figure I might as well just turn it off and go from 10 days of battery life with the always-on display on to 31 days of battery life with the always-on. 31 days! That's insane! This thing's only 14 for the 6X Sapphire because the technology is just getting that much better. And then this one with the always-on display, you get like, well, they say the whole 36 hours. I get a close to 80 hours with mine, like 3.5 days. Because I don't do the always-on display. So again, 3.5 days, 31 days. That is absolutely bonkers. Now, another thing I want to touch on, speaking of the brightness. When you're in the dark, this watch doesn't do that great. It's not as bright as my Series 5. That could be because of the sapphire thing, because there's a difference between sapphire and unsaphired glass. Okay, it's still legible, but the auto dimness is quite aggressive on this. It's very aggressive. In the sun, it's almost like too bright. You don't need 3,000 nits. You don't even need 2,000, but I'll take it. And the always-on display with this one in the sun is fantastic. This, again, in the sun's not fantastic for the always-on display. But if you're in a cave, or you go jogging at 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the wilderness, and there's no full moon, and it's pitch black. This is just all around better. Notice how I did the quotations, because better subjective. If you want a long-lasting battery, Like, I mean, a month-long lasting battery, a wicked screen. And you want your thing to be legible when you're interacting with it in the dark, in the light. This is your watch, $1,752. This was like $1,380 with the taxes. So yes, this is more expensive, but let's be real. If you're blowing over $1,000 on a watch, you're blowing over $1,200 on a watch. I don't think the extra $350 or whatever it ended up being is going to be a deal breaker, right? Work an extra shift. I don't know. Wait an extra paycheck, right? So that's that for the brightness and the battery life, because they're massively different, even though they'll look very similar at first glance. Okay? Because this is auto adjusting. If I go outside, this thing will get a lot brighter, like I said. Whereas this, I'm not noticing any auto brightness whatsoever. Some people don't like the fact that this is so bright at night, so then turn down the brightness. That's all I'm saying. Now, some of the other changes, or not changes, differences between the two. When it comes to scrolling, it's not terrible, and other people have talked about this. This one's not too bad. But for a $1,700 watch, that ring light was driving me nuts. It sometimes, not sometimes, it's fast. It's good. You can even use the buttons here to scroll, and it's good. But I wouldn't say it's silky smooth like my iPhone or even smooth like my Apple Watch. I'm just being real, and I'm not a fanboy of any company. I actually look better in the dark. Nobody needs to see me in the bright light. Whereas this one can feel a bit sluggish, but it is definitely better than what I have seen in early reviews before the latest update. I don't know when the latest update came out for this. I just picked this up yesterday, but it is quite good. But if you're super picky and you're like, it kind of feels sort of kind of not really sluggish, but it is good. It feels like it's 60 hertz. Definitely doesn't feel 120. So that shouldn't be a deal breaker at all. This doesn't bother me at all. Whereas this, smoother. When it comes to the software integration with Garmin Connect and Garmin IQ on your smartphone, which I have somewhere over there, it's a lot more sluggish. So when I took this out of the box and I started updating it, I keep like showing you the watch because ultimately I'm trying to showcase the watch. It was terrible. It took forever. First of all, to get it to update. I just thought it was very cumbersome. It's the same problem as before. If you're using third-party watch faces, it's quite a drag to get them to download to your phone. You normally end up having to go back to Garmin Connect on your watch, for example, on your phone, sorry, and then sync, and then go back to Garmin IQ. So you need the two apps open. It's just a little bit blah. It's not the most exciting thing for me personally. But it does work. And then there's some watch faces that don't work on this watch because it's still kind of new, like ActiFace. This is one of the Garmin Epix ones right out of the box. Okay. So that's kind of a bummer. If you have no internet connection or the Garmin servers go down, you can't do nothing with this watch from your phone. Your phone is 100% reliant on the internet, their servers being up. Whereas the Apple Watch, you can use this with no internet whatsoever. Because they're paired together, this watch will even allow you to change all the watch faces, though you can't really have any custom third-party watch faces at all with this. I find you could better customize your watch with this. Because this watch here, for example, all the complications that you see, whether it's the battery, the temperature, those are actually interactable. And when I interact with the actual section of the watch face that I want to see, it brings up more information. This can potentially hold more information, but there are no watch faces as far as I know. Whereas if I tap on my heart rate here, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to bring up the heart rate sensor or the heart rate thing. You'd have to scroll down, go to heart rate. Do you know what I mean? So those are some of the huge differences. That's neither good nor bad. It is just an observation. So if you're going to be without internet, you don't care to touch your phone, you don't care to look at third-party watch apps to select like intricate details in what you're going to see, then it doesn't really matter, right? What I don't like, for example, with this one, I have like the battery life for this one, you know, the second one down. I wanted my battery life to be at the top left. I couldn't do that. So even though you can customize the watch, this is a real Epix Garmin watch face, you don't have full customization. Sure, you could change the colors and all that, but you can't really select where everything goes. So I wanted like the battery and then the weather. I wanted the battery to be at the top, not the weather to be at the top, then the battery. Just those like little intricate fine details. You can't do that with practically any of the watch faces that come from Garmin. So for me, to be perfectly blunt, if there were no third-party watch faces, I would never buy a Garmin in a million years. For me, it is all about the incredible, incredible third-party watch apps. But again, you need the internet to make any setting changes to the watch faces that are third-party, which I think is just an oversight. You should be able to download them on your phone, on your watch, and you should still be able to manipulate them from your watch and or phone without internet. You can do that with this, but again, there's no third party here. You're stuck with all the, well, stuck's maybe not the right word. You do get a plethora, a cornucopia of different watch faces with Apple. And no matter what complication you select, you can make that whatever the hell you want. Again, you can't do that with this. So it's one of those weird things where it's just about what matters to you the most. This has a touchscreen. You can turn it off. This is just a touchscreen. Sure, you got the dial, but you can't turn off the touchscreen. Again, right? This one's got a magnet charger. You could charge it to full in like 90 minutes. I think it's the same thing with this, roughly. It'll last you a month. You can read it better in the dark. It's really difficult. For me, I'm probably not going to hold on to this unless I could sell this, but it's just too much money. And I really don't feel like carrying two watches with me, wearing them one on each wrist, and then going, how come this one's got a bit more steps than the other one? And that would probably end up driving me absolutely insane. So to try to do a final recap, to try and do that, I'm not good at that, but I'm going to try really quick. These two watches, okay? This watch lasts forever. A month with always on display off. 10 or 11 days with always on display, but the always on display for me is poo-poo, okay? But this watch, god damn, is it amazing in all environments, whether it's super bright or super dark. And the battery life is insane. No internet connection, you're going to suffer with what you can do on your watch and or phone, and you'll be able to make no changes whatsoever to third-party watch faces if you don't have an internet connection, okay? You have a lot more control with this, and it's on the fly. The software is just more seamless. It's a lot more fluid. It's more responsive. The Garmin software, in my opinion, just sucks. Really, it really does. And again, when you go to download updates, I had to do it like 3 times. I forget if I mentioned that earlier. Before my watch finally did a sync and was like, you know what? Yeah, your watch is up to date. You think? But it was taking like almost 10 minutes spinning around each time. I spent almost like an hour in the beginning setting this up. An hour. It was very frustrating. This took me like 5 minutes, right? But again, long term, some of those things don't really matter. Okay? You go in the Australian outback, you know, you're going to last a couple of days, 3.5 days. You want to go for anything longer than that, unless you have a battery pack, right? You're probably going to want something like this, because this is crap in the dark. I'm not saying you can't read it. You can see. You're not going to squint. You might do a half squint, you know, because when you squint, apparently you see better. It's like you're zoning in your eagle eye vision. You kind of have to do that with this, only if you're like in a cave. If there's a bit of moonlight out, that's still ambient light. It does make it more legible, but an Apple Watch Series 5 is brighter than this in the darkness. This is almost too bright in the sun as a joke and too dark in the dark, whereas this is just perfect for me. So if they just got rid of the auto dimness on this, I would be happy. I would be ecstatic. Whereas this, I really don't have much to complain about other than the software and the lack of being able to do anything on your phone when there's no internet connection. I just find that to be such a weird thing, a weird design choice. Because again, you could do it with this. And Apple, you know, Apple, I can even say it, they're very restrictive, right? But yet they allow you to do that. And to me, I don't know. To me, it's a big deal. And like I said, $1,752 Canadian. It's not exactly $752. If that's all this watch would, I would just keep it just for something to play with and keep up with the changes as the updates go on, which is why I'm probably just going to keep this one. But yeah, longer video than what I wanted it to be. I don't know how useful this is going to be. I wish I could have made this video, honestly, in like 5 minutes. I really wish I could have. This is actually my fourth time re-recording the video. And each time I try to condense it, my first couple were closer to the half-hour mark. So I did chop the time down in half. Don't even ask me what the hell I was spewing for the other 15 minutes. I don't know. But that's basically it right there. They're both fantastic watches. Whether this one... Hell, this watch is more than sufficient. I don't even need this. But I was like, I want the OLED thing. I want the OLED thing. And, yeah. So I am probably going to end up returning this one. But it's not a bad watch, again. So you'll have to figure out what's the deal breaker for you, the battery life, whatever, and kind of go from there. And, of course, watch other YouTubers that are way better versed in this kind of world, right? I only do these once in a while because electronics are expensive, and half the time I don't even get to keep the watch, right? So if you like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It does greatly help support the channel with the algorithm. I feel like I need to keep showing you this because this is what I've been trying to talk. I just hope I don't drop it. Yeah, so if you liked it, thumbs up the video, that is. Or if you liked the watch and didn't like my video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up anyways. It does help promote the channel with the algorithm. It helps, yeah, it helps with the algorithm. It helps promote the channel with the algorithm. I need to get back to bed. And if you didn't like the video, that's okay. Go ahead, give it a thumbs down. We'll bend it in half, twist it, break it off in your ass. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, I mean, naturally, that would be great. But if not, thanks for stopping by anyways. Take care. And maybe, if I'm lucky, I'll see some of you in the next one. Bye for now.